A major day at the Ada County Courthouse tackling trial logistics for the case against Bryan Kohberger, accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students in 2022. I'm downtown Boise neighborhood reporter Riley Shoemaker, and I was in the courtroom as Judge Stephen Hippler laid out ground rules for jury selection, trial, and the use of evidence. He also signaled concerns over potential violations of the long-standing gag order, saying he's open to appointing a special prosecutor. Much of the hearing focused on jury selection logistics. 12 jurors and now 8 alternates will be seated. An increase in alternates, the judge said, came, quote, after Friday, the same day a nationally televised special shared new details of the case that were previously not made public, citing sources close to the investigation. Judge Hippler also acknowledged a closed-door session to address potential breaches of the court's non-dissemination order and said he's open to appointing a special prosecutor with subpoena power.
The words special counsel sound familiar. It's because there's yet another one entering the mix. The president's son, Hunter Biden, is now at the center of a federal investigation. Fox's Lauren Blanchard is in Washington with more.
Attorney General Merrick Garland has appointed another special counsel, this time to investigate the president's son, Hunter Biden.
Across state lines, the Arkansas Supreme Court has appointed a special prosecutor to investigate a matter concerning Circuit Judge-elect Doug Brimhall.
Okay, so a special counsel is a lawyer appointed to investigate and sometimes prosecute suspected wrongdoing, but only in instances where there might be a conflict of interest or an extraordinary need in the public interest to seek outside help. An example is if allegations are made against a sitting president or an attorney general, a special counsel would be appointed so that an ordinary prosecutor wouldn't have to investigate their bosses.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Listen to Pavarotti.
Can I be your superhero?
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I am your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. And I'm like a kid in Candyland right now, y'all. I mean, and since these release documents have come out, even though there's not a whole lot of information in them, there's a lot of information in them. And there's a lot of things that have pointed us in the right direction on certain aspects of this case, and I've uncovered so much this week that I haven't been able to share with everybody yet. It's just astounding to me. And the validation of the things that we've uncovered is, I mean, it's very satisfying, especially as it relates to, in a way it's satisfying because we now know beyond a shadow of a doubt in our humble opinions that Bryan Kohberger is truly innocent of this crime. And the evidence around what they used to prosecute him was either egregious or just plain sloppy in so many ways, as we're going to disclose over the next probably week or two. But in this video, I've got to focus on what our discussion has been here lately. And I did send that video link to everybody that I had an email for on the Bryan Kohberger defense team. I can tell you that some of those email links don't work because I got returned emails saying that they either weren't accepting emails or they just weren't operable. Some of them I didn't get those messages though, so that means some of them got it. But then I started really thinking as I went through and I read our new released reports, and a couple of things became really apparent. And I went, whoa, this is kind of big. Now, last week, or maybe a few days ago, I put out a video because there was some filings in the case that were on the case summary that hadn't hit the court docket yet. And it was related to the restitution amendment that the state was filing. Now, I immediately jumped on that and said, okay, the last time the state filed an amendment to the restitution, the defense fought it, argued it, and seemed like it was a pretty good opportunity for them to get the entire deal thrown out as it relates to the plea deal. And I said this would be a good opportunity for them to do that. Now we've got the released documents. The judge has actually posted his rulings on that. And I was barking up the wrong tree on that one, unfortunately. but I wasn't gonna let it pass by just in case without pointing it out. So that was barking up the wrong tree, but now I'm even more understanding of what we're really dealing with as it relates to the leak investigation into this case. The new court docs have given me even more insight into that. And when I say the leak in this case, as you've seen in the beginning, the reason the judge appointed a special prosecutor to investigate the leaks is because the judge must have known what I now know. And that is that the leak couldn't have come from a low-level officer in the case. It couldn't have come from one of the experts in the case, as I previously thought. I previously thought because they released all of the information from Bryan Kohberger's phone that the likely culprit of the leak would have been the Celebrite experts because they're the ones that had access to all the information on Kohberger's phone. But now that I truly see the level of access to the case files that the leaker must have actually had, it tells me that the leak in this investigation came much higher up. It had to be somebody that was directly involved with the case, with prosecuting the case, because they had access to information across several expert reports. So whoever in the case on the state side, in my humble opinion, that had access, high-level access to not only forensic information from, like, say, the Celebrite experts or the extraction of Kohberger's phone, all the digital evidence, but they also had access to forensic reports and forensic determinations of things that happened at the crime scene. And I'm going to be able to maybe not prove it 1,000%, but I'm going to be able to show you enough information to where you'll clearly understand what I'm saying by the end of this video. Because you would have to be somebody that is involved with the case to have information, real information about digital forensics, being able to provide like specific things on Kohberger's phone, and to have real information about the crime scene recreation by the crime scene expert. And we can even narrow down the time frame of when the leaker leaked the information, or at least was privy to the information. And it was between the middle of 2024 and the early part of 2025 is when, at the very least, the leaker got the information to give to Dateline, or maybe that was the time that they leaked it to Dateline and Dateline just sat on it until right before the trial. Because unknowingly to the leaker at the time, they leaked information that was inaccurate information. And I'm going to be able to show you that definitively in this video. And it took me a while to be able to put it together. But they leaked what they thought was accurate information about the crime scene. And it turned out that it was inaccurate information because of the numbering system that Brett Payne had used during the initial process of numbering the evidence. So it really gives us a good insight to who the leaker possibly was and when that leak possibly happened. And it tells me, when you look at the special prosecutor and what they would uncover as far as leaks, you see if a leak goes high enough up and it's uncovered, then you have some major ramifications on not only having a case reinstated, but also the type of sanctions that can be requested due to that potential violation. It's huge. And it gives me a little bit more understanding of what I'm looking at now, because with all the information that we've uncovered here recently, if the defense team at the time had even some of the information that we've uncovered, then we would understand why they would have gone this route versus just going directly to trial at the time. Everything's becoming a little bit more clear to old Pav as things go along. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a timeline of when this leak likely happened, what the leak told Dateline, why the leak told Dateline that, why it's not accurate, and how we can determine when this thing happened because of the inaccuracies of the leak and what Dateline reported. Hold on to your hats, folks. Bob's done a little investigation, so we're going to do a little investigative reporting on this one. First things first, though. All of these documents have now posted to the court record for us to actually be able to read. Now, this is what really frustrates me, though, about this case. As you can see, you got on March 18th, the last thing that had posted was order sealing state supplemental motion to reconsider unsealing of certain records. Then it jumps to April 2nd with the state's request for a decision without a hearing, defense's response to the amended restitution, the judge's order on the motion to amend, the judge's amending order on the restitution, and then amended order of restitution and amended order of restitution, all starting April 2nd. March 18th to April 2nd. Everything's posted, so we should be cool with everything. But this is what frustrates me. There was documents filed between the 18th and the 2nd that some reason just aren't popping up here now. So when we go to the case summary, you can see that on March 19th was the state's motion to amend the order of restitution. On March 20th, the state's amended motion to amend the order of restitution. Then it gets to the 2nd where you get the request for decision without a hearing. Why are these two not showing on the case record? What initially, started this thing, the motion and the amended motion by the state on the 19th and 20th. Look, March 18th to April 2nd. So the initial motion and the amended motion don't post to the court record. They start with the request for a decision without a hearing. So we go to it. So that's why are they hiding those two from us? I don't know. But when I go to the request for a decision without a hearing, it simply says the state respectively requests the court decide the amended motion filed here on March 20th without a hearing. So where is this motion? We never got to see it. Now, the defense's response told me that I was wrong on this being an opportunity to get the plea deal thrown out, but it says that Bryan Kohberger's defense team, pursuant to Idaho code, on restitution, Mr. Kohberger was sentenced July 23rd. The state now seeks to amend the order to correct the recipient of restitution. Mr. Kohberger would note that this correction became necessary only after the expiration of the extended period granted by the court. Mr. Kohberger questions the court's jurisdiction to amend the restitution order, but defers to the court's wisdom. So they didn't fight it at all. And then the motion to amend the restitution order says the state requests the motion be determined without a hearing. Consequently, the court orders the defendant to file a response or notice of non-opposition within 5 days of the filing of this order. So this was on April 8th. It seemed that the defense had already filed their response and said, we'll leave it to the court's discretion. So he may have actually did this before he received that. May have. See, because they filed that on the 3rd. That order was on the 8th, but the defense has never filed anything else according to the court record, so I'm assuming. Then the order to amend the restitution, and here's what it entailed. The order of restitution in favor of Jeffrey Kernodle in the amount of $88.43. Specifically, the state seeks to substitute Mr. Kernodle with the Crime Victims Compensation Program as the judgment creditor for $5,000. So what that means is Jeffrey Kernodle, who was awarded $8,843 in the restitution, got a check from the Crime Victim Compensation Program for $5,000. So they're replacing who Kohberger now owes. He owes Kernodle $38.4303, and he owes the Crime Victim Compensation Program $5,000. And all this is an allocation of the money. So Jeffrey got $5,000. Kohberger now owes him $38.43, and he owes the Victims Compensation Program $5,000 for them compensating Kernodle. That's all it was. And the amended order of restitution, Victims Compensation Program in Boise, Idaho, the amount of $5,000. Okay, so now this is all right, so they owed Kernodle $88.43 based on the state's motion. The court finds $5,000 of said restitution is subrogated in favor of the Crime Victims Compensation Program. So again, they get a Crime Victim Compensation Program, gave Kernodle $5,000. Now the Crime Victim Compensation Program in Boise is owed $5,000, and they're going to tack on interest. So with interest at a rate of 9.125% annual from the date of the original restitution. So every year, Kohberger's going to owe another 9.125% on whatever this amount is if he begins paying on it. So not only does Kernodle get $5,000 from the Crime Victim Compensation Fund, Kohberger still owe him $38.43. He now owes the Crime Victim Compensation Fund $5,000 plus 9.125% per year interest. So that's how that works, y'all. And then we got another amended order. Is it any different? Looks like the same thing. They just posted it twice. 9.125% on the 5,000. Oh, wait a minute. No. Okay, so now he owes 9.125% on the $38.43 owed to Jeffrey Kernodle per year as well. Okay. So I guess all of the judgments that Kohberger owes accrues at 9.125% interest per year. So it's like Kohberger's restitution is like a loan shark gave him the money and he's charging him 9% per year on the payback of those funds. So that's all that was. Now let's get to the real stuff. Now let's talk about the leak for just a moment here. We all know that the Dateline episode happened just before the trial, and I would have to think it took them a while to put that production together. I've narrowed down the time frame of when the leaker either leaked the information to Dateline or at the very least learned the information and got the information to leak to Dateline, and I'll show you that here in a minute. But we know what Dateline leaked. They leaked 3 different major things in the case, which tells me that it's somebody very high up, and it had to be somebody with access to all of this, not just an individual expert, unless they got with each expert over time, and I highly doubt that. I think it all came at once. But we know that they leaked previously never before seen video of suspect vehicle in the King Road neighborhood. It's the first time we all seen this video right here. So they were a high enough leak to have access to sealed security video to be able to actually give it to Dateline for them to leak. That's number one. Number two, they had access to not only all of the information on Kohberger's phone, like his dates that he traveled to Moscow, because they listed each one in detail. They also had his pictures from his phone, search histories. And we know that because they actually released pictures that they cherry picked, such as this one of Kohberger in a hoodie to make him look sinister. So they actually had the information from Kohberger's phone to include pictures. But more importantly, they had access to the prosecution's expert witness and her determination of the recreation of the crime scene. And we know that because of what they showed in their animation that they got the little Asget lady to put together for them. And what did they show? They showed Xana Kernodle coming out. Now in the animation, they claim that Xana's phone activity would show steps. Now that we've been all through the case record and the prosecution's evidence list, they never had any of the step information from Xana's phone activity. They added that in there. But what they did have, no doubt, was the state's expert report at the time. And they said that Xana had come out, gone all the way upstairs, confronted the attacker, and then the attacker chased her back downstairs into the bedroom where they attacked her and Ethan. Now, I'm going to show you unequivocally why they thought that was true. And it tells me exactly when they got this information. It had to be from August 29, 2024, because that's when the state expert submitted her expert recreation of the crime scene. And it happened between this date and February 10th, 2025, because that's when the state expert had to submit her rebuttal once she realized that the information that she used to do her recreation was incorrect due to erroneous DNA results because of the numbering system that Brett Payne had used in numbering the evidence. And I have definitive proof of that. So that means the leak happened likely either during this time, or at the very least, the leaker gathered all of that information during this time and then leaked it to Dateline later. Either way, it was somebody that had access to all of the information, not just from one expert, but from two experts, what they actually extracted, their actual report, and was even able to gather the actual video. That's somebody very high up, somebody likely prosecuting the case, in my humble opinion. But we know that they gathered the information between these two dates because, again, this is when the expert submitted the report. This is when she amended it. Let me prove that. We know that the prosecution expert, which was T. Paulette Sutton, produced her original report in this matter on August 29, 2024. She received information from the defense's expert and amended this report on February 10th, 2025. So we know the leak happened, or at least the information was gathered between August 29, 2024 and February 10th, 2025. This is how we know that it happened during that time and not after that, because of what I'm about to show you.
When she walked up to Maddie's doorway, she interrupted Kohberger, who had just finished an intense battle with Kaylee, who fought back violently. After a second or two, he notices her, and then she turns away. Being dark, Xana didn't realize what she was seeing other than a shadowy figure. Out of fear, she quickly leaves. A single source, unaffiliated with the media, claims Kohberger injured Xana on the third-floor hallway, leaving evidence of blood there. But this single source of information has not been validated by any more sources. A single source, unaffiliated with the media, claims Kohberger injured Xana on the third-floor hallway. A single source, unaffiliated with the media, claims Kohberger injured Xana on the third-floor hallway.
And that, my friends, was the thing that's going to sink them absolutely. Because they put that little extra statement about Xana's blood from an unknown source close to the investigation, not affiliated with the media, they knew the prosecution's expert report at the time, because the prosecution's expert report showed that the blood on Maddie's door was matched to Xana's DNA. So they thought that F on the pong table was matched to Xana's DNA. And they thought that evidence placard 42 on Maddie's door on the third floor was matched to Xana's DNA. So her expert report was that Xana had gone upstairs and interrupted Kohberger, unaliving Maddie and Kaylee, and then injured Xana on the third floor, getting her blood on the door, then injured her again in the living room, getting her blood on the pong table, and then finally finishing the attack in her bedroom. That's what the state believed, because that's what the expert report said at the time. Except they didn't realize that Brett Payne had misnumbered all of the evidence by 6. And they didn't know this until they got the defense expert's report explaining that to them. And then they learned that stain F was never tested. So it was likely Kaylee's blood, because Kaylee's blood was tested all over the pong table. Then they find out that placard number 42 was never tested. So it wasn't Xana's blood. This whole thing about Xana going upstairs and interrupting, and it was Xana running downstairs back into the room, has been a misinterpretation of evidence the entire time because of the numbering system from Brett Payne. And I'll prove it to you right now, because all the evidence markers are off by 6. And here's what we find. Now, here's the expert report that we got back from January 26, where it addressed the numbering system. And this is Again, T. Paulette Sutton, state expert for crime scene recreation, and she says, Mr. Nodal, the defense expert, reported that the numbers reflected on the placards depicted in the scene photographs were not the same as the sample numbers used when the evidence was submitted to the laboratory for testing. One needed to increase the placard number by 6 to correlate to the intake number, the pre-logging number used when samples were submitted to the laboratory for testing. To confirm this observation, I requested the original evidence log from the MPD on February 10, 2025, and compared the information to the laboratory worksheets. Mr. Nodal's observation does appear to be correct. So the laboratory results for several stains were amended. Among those stains were stain F on the beer pong table in the living room, results corrected. Stain at placard 42 on Mogan's bedroom door, results corrected. These are the two that she had to correct that was leaked to Dateline, obviously before February 10th, 2025. And here's why. Because in this same report, we already knew right here she deleted conclusion 6, erroneous DNA results for stain F on the pong table. She thought that belonged to Xana. When she changed the numbers on the placard, she found out that one wasn't tested and it's likely Kaylee's. But when you go to the new released reports that was just released to us, we see this. This new report, when it gets to Nodal's claim, the defense expert regarding marker 42, it talks about, first of all, how the prosecution expert claimed it was an altered blood stain. And he goes on to mention that the appearance of the alteration of the blood stain was because of water used in sampling. But he also mentions that stain 42 was never tested and therefore cannot be attributed as originating from any specific individual. And then Sutton's response to that, regarding the DNA profile of stain 42, Sutton was unaware of the change in the numbering system as it correlated to the description of the agency number in the ISPFS worksheet described by Nodal. The misidentification of this sample may be associated with the renumbering system deployed by Detective Payne. After further investigation, Sutton removed any DNA results for stain 42 as it appears to have not been tested. Oh, okay, well, that's no big deal. You're removing your original determination from the DNA results of stain 42. And it doesn't go into a lot more detail about stain 42. But we know what her decision or her opinion was derived from. She thought stain 42 was Xana Kernodle's. And there's no doubt about that because we know what stain 42 is. And we can just subtract 6 from stain 42, get us to stain 36, and see whose DNA results were actually in stain 42, according to the state's expert, when she was wrong. And that was what was leaked to Dateline. And here's how we know this. Because as you can see, stain 42 was these little blood droplets on Maddie Mogan's bedroom door, obviously from the attack on Maddie. Here's another look at it. See how it's on the door, and on the door frame, it's cast off or spatter from the attack. When you go back 6, though, like the prosecution expert says, then you get to stain 36, which was the blood found on Xana Kernodle's door, which we know tested positive for Xana Kernodle. She confused the blood on Xana Kernodle's door with the blood on Maddie Mogan's door and took the results saying it was Xana being attacked up in Maddie's room, and that's what was leaked to Dateline before February 10th, 2025. So whoever the leaker was had access to this, as well as the Celebrite extraction of Kohberger's phone, as well as the suspect video of suspect vehicle circling the King Road neighborhood. And it was all leaked to Dateline, and somebody high up had to have access to all 3 of these things to even be able to leak it. Now, here's what you have to know. We're all discovering this in real time, but the prosecution team, the judge, and the defense team would have known this as soon as they watched the Dateline episode and what was released and what it said. They already knew about the state's expert misrepresenting the evidence because of the placards being numbered incorrectly. They already knew that the original expert report showed what the Dateline leak showed, and they already knew it was wrong. So they would have known all of this that I'm explaining to you today. So when I say the judge initiating the special prosecutor to find the leak, he would have known that leak was high up in the state's prosecution case. How high up? I don't know. I mean, we're talking about either prosecutors or staffers on the prosecution staff would be the only ones I could think of that would have access to all this information independently. Now, or all this information collectively. Now, it could have possibly been leaked independently by all three of those experts, or two of the experts and whoever had access to the video suspect vehicle, but I highly doubt it. The more likely scenario is somebody who had access to all this information leaked it all at once, in my humble opinion. So when you find a leaker that is high up in the prosecution of the client, a special investigator is assigned, they already know what I know now. They would have been able to focus in the investigation to the time frame when the leak likely happened. So when this all comes out in the wash, y'all, I'm telling you that if they uncover the leaker, which I'm sure they will, if they uncover the leaker and it's somebody that's high enough in the prosecution, the sanctions that can be asked for by the defense for a new trial are very, very big, such as removal of the death penalty, such as removal of witnesses, such as sanctioning of evidence. But then again, now that we've uncovered all the evidence that we've uncovered up to this point, I think the most likely scenario is when all this goes down, it'll just be an easy exoneration of Kohberger, reopen of the investigation. Let's all pray. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Post your comments, your thoughts, your criticisms, and until next time, this case is about to blow open in the next couple of months, y'all. Pov's out.
Oh, gonna give it a shot. Only one of me to shield you all from the enemy. You're a superhero. You're a superhero.